This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening, gents. I have a little text here that I want to read. Want to thank our sponsors for making this recording and this event possible. Bayer, Foundation Medicine, Janssen, Myriad Genetics, Novartis, Telix, and Blue Earth Diagnostics, as well as all the donations that we receive from the people who visit. It is a 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and are very much appreciated. If you are not getting our reminder notes, please put your email in the chat window and or visit the website and sign up to get email reminders for the upcoming sessions. AnCan notes that it does not accept sponsored promotion. Any drugs, protocols, or devices that we discuss in our sessions are based solely on our peer experience or clinical evidence as we find it. AnCan cannot and does not provide medical advice. We encourage you to discuss anything you hear in our sessions here with your own medical team before making a decision. And want to say hello to Colonel Boykin Jordan. How are you? Good to see
Good,
you.
good. Good to see
Uh,
you.
Boykin, are you going to need some time tonight?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So we will join in here with Steve R. Um, and I have a questionnaire to get some information from you, and that will help get our discussion going. So, first, how old are you, Steve? Steve, you're muted. You have to unmute your mic. There we go.
It's a little tricky here.
Okay, that's great.
I'm
How old?
69, and I was sent here by Howard Walensky, who may be known to this group. He's
Yes.
not only is he a blogger on active surveillance, but I used to work with him in Chicago newspapers.
Fantastic. How old are you now, Steve?
I am 69 years old.
Okay, and you're in Chicago. You still in Chicago?
Yes.
Okay. And when were you first diagnosed?
Well, basically, depending how you look at it, a week or so ago.
Okay. And what got you to the doctor?
Oh, I had a high PSA in the fours that are kept going that way on repeat, and I had an MRI which showed no lesions, but pretty small prostate, and that was enough for my urologist to say that uh, I should have that checked further, get a biopsy. I was a little reluctant and got a 4K score, a biomarker test, and that put me in the high third of their ranking system. So yes, I got the biopsy, which showed oh um, mostly some low grade cells, but a stretch of 3+4 cells on one of the cores.
How many
So
courses did they take?
they took 10.
And how many were positive?
Um, well, we'll say 3, although one was the third was called a small focus, which meant less than 5%. So so my urologist isn't even really counting that.
On the core that was 3+4, what percent 4 did they find?
Let's see. It was a 10% Gleason pattern 4 involving 60% of one core. So that's that was
Okay.
an 8 millimeter measurement. So so what does the doctor say? Basically, it's up to you. You could go on active surveillance. You could have surgery. You could have radiation. And he proposed another biomarker test to try to resolve which way to go.
And which test was that?
Well, that is. I have to. I'm going to check my notes because, well, ex-reporters do that. Also because 69-year-olds forget things.
Okay.
This was
While you're looking it up, who was
a somatic genomic test. So
it's what?
it was a
DECIPHER?
yeah, somatic genomic testing. So that
Okay. The most common one
that's
is,
pretty fancy stuff.
yeah, but the most common one is DECIPHER, and that's important. Who is your doctor?
He is Dr. Vorgantis at Rush Presbyterian in Chicago.
Okay. And have you gotten a second opinion and sent the tissue off to get a second opinion read on the pathology to confirm the 3+4 in just one core?
I've got a couple of names, haven't followed up yet, but that is one of the things that I was not discouraged from doing. The urologist didn't bring it up, but I've heard from Howard has a group of active surveillance that meets every so often, and and that's what they suggested, and so I have some names to introduce myself to get the second opinion.
Great. So the second opinion is obviously in terms of treatment, that's one thing, but also to reread the pathology slides, we would recommend Dr. Ming Zhao at Mount Sinai in New York, or Dr. Jonathan Epstein in New York at Advanced Prostate Pathology, or the Johns Hopkins Prostate Pathology Lab. And what they find is about 25 to 30% of the time, rereading the biopsy may change what's done. And then the other thing is this genomic testing. And the two most common tests to look at this point would be the DECIPHER test, and that's done from the actual tissue biopsy. And then another is ArteraAI, which is useful to help review the risk of active surveillance. I'm going to open things up here and see, actually, before we open it up to everybody else, what questions would you have for us, Steve, that you hope that we can answer or help you with?
I guess I'm at the point where I'm trying to figure out how much prodding I can stomach as someone on active surveillance. If we're talking about uh, just monitoring, taking a bit of uh, well, uh, has a bit of a risk in itself that if you're getting biopsies every year or two. Um, and uh, and the treatments obviously have uh, potential side effects. So
There
uh,
are
it's
there are some,
go ahead.
there are some newer tests, the EpiSwitch, TSE, and ExoDX in my prostate score 2, which may report back an indication that the biopsy may be deferred and may not be necessary right off the bat. So I think you'll find that we have new tools coming out that are letting us simplify the monitoring. And when you say prodding, the issue comes prodding is from here up. You know how much of a hassle and stress it is just to deal with what's expected and how to do it right versus here down, the periodic biopsies, MRIs, and PSA testing, uh, whether there's much of a risk to that part of the monitoring. Um, so let's open it up. We have the hands that people can raise if they want to make a comment.
Yeah, there's one other interesting part of this. Is my wife had a stage 0 breast cancer diagnosis some years ago, which turned out to be nothing, but she was under her own version of active surveillance for 5 years or so. But she's probably going to be uh, pushing me towards something, toward treatment and against surveillance, just because she'll be worrying about things. I am. I am not going to be very concerned, frankly, because my father had he died of lung cancer, but not prostate cancer. He had it, but pretty much, if you've lived long enough, you will. If you're a guy, so
And we're
that,
lucky that we have
the
better
reason I'm going
indication
to, the
now,
reason
better
I'm,
we have
yeah,
a better understanding that um, a lot of times the treatment may be worse than what the disease or treating the disease might end up versus doing the active surveillance. Stuart, uh, why don't
Hi,
you?
hi, Steve. I was going to ask whether there was any family history, because that can make a difference. And so, your dad, do you have any brothers?
um, I have two younger brothers, and neither of them have indicated any uh, anything, any testing even about prostate cancer. But I have a brother that's a year younger than me that had a thyroid cancer uh, uh, in maybe around age 60. That was discovered early and treated. So
Have you had genetic testing that checks for inherited
I have not,
mutations?
and and any uh, and no one in the family has done anything outside of like an ancestry.com kind of test. So, which is not uh, which is to say, it's not not medical testing, but genealogy focused.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay. No, I just genetic testing is helpful for future generations as well. Have you talked to a different doctor or a second or more doctors about the question about treat versus surveillance?
I've talked to my primary care physician over the years. There have been several. You may have noticed that more doctors are on someone's staff. They're not in independent practice. So at 65, they're out the door. So you get a succession of doctors, and my longtime doctor was it's kind of your decision whether you even want to take the PSA test, because you have to be ready for these other tests, which may or may not turn into anything, but it's a lot more tests.
Steve, in the right upper corner of your screen, there's a chat box. It looks like a little square. It's next to the person. And in there, we have listed notes on the PROMISE study, which I think is still offering the free germline genetic screening, and then information about DECIPHER and Artera tests. I'm wondering if anybody wants to, speak to the MRI negative lesions or disease that's found after biopsy when there was no lesion visible on the MRI, because that's an important consideration as well. Anybody want to speak to that?
Well, I have heard about that, and I know it's not accepted wisdom, but quite possible that if it's not seen in the MRI, it could be genetically a different kind of cancer that's not as likely to develop.
Well, it is developed, but it's not as likely to spread and be aggressive. And I think this is the kind of thing that you might find with the DECIPHER or Artera test. John A., Dr. John, can you speak to the issue of, we know with treatment, there are potential side effects with treatment, but then there's also the stress with monitoring. Would you like to maybe address issues of how to balance the worry about just ticking time bomb, so to speak, which usually doesn't go off, versus risk with treatment?
People on active surveillance are lucky in one way, because they don't have to put up with all the side effects of surgery and hormone treatment and radiation treatment. But they do have to put up with a lot of uncertainty. It really, I don't think the prodding and poking are so bad. You may get a rectal exam, you may get the occasional biopsy. Mostly it'll just be blood tests. But typically, and Howard will tell you this, typically people do worry a lot, and sitting and waiting for what's going to happen and living in the moment and getting a blood test every 3 or 6 months or something like that can be nerve-wracking. If you do end up opting for active surveillance, which seems to me to be you're leaning, although you're getting a little pressure to be more aggressive. Stick with this group or Howard's group, because you'll be talking with a lot of guys that are putting up with that same anxiety. Um, but it's probably easier to learn to cope with that anxiety than to learn to cope with active treatment.
Hmm.
You know, where you'll get physical symptoms, and so stick with group support and learn ways of managing uncertainty. Um, if you
And
do
there are also
decide
groups,
to go that way.
John, there are also groups. Do you lead the caregivers group, or is that someone else who's doing that? Because
Somebody
Steve,
else is doing the caregivers group, but yeah, there's a group that your wife might like to attend. I
Yeah,
don't know whether the
um,
patients on caregivers group are much more ill, and
no,
so you might be
yeah,
hearing something that doesn't apply or not.
we don't support, unfortunately, we don't support care partners unless they have advanced cancer.
okay.
Okay.
We do have a Women Speaking Freely group, which your wife is very, very um, is invited to and very welcome to attend. And Dr. John can say something about the Speaking Freely groups.
I have a group that meets twice a month where men get together and talk about what's on their mind, in particular, what anxieties and worries are on their mind. There's men in that group uh, all the way from active surveillance to severe disease and other diseases. But it's a good group support for someone who is anxious.
Yeah,
And
and we have a counterpart Women Speaking Freely group as well. So if we have your email, if you if you let us have your email, we'll make sure you get notices for all the groups. Um, you know, the one thing I really would want to say to you is that your wife may be concerned, but she doesn't have to suffer the side effects. And treatment comes with potentially a lot of side effects. There are a lot of people who have had treatment and have a huge amount of regret. There's a lot of literature now about treatment regret in all kinds of conditions, but especially in prostate cancer. So we can talk to your wife. Your wife is very welcome in this group. She's very welcome in the active surveillance group too, and we can talk to her about the likelihood that your condition is going to spread, which is very slim, as we know it from the biopsy right now, at least, versus the um, living with a very unhappy camper for hopefully many years.
Michael in Tennessee, did you want to jump in the conversation?
Actually, Rick kind of took the words out of my mouth talking about the treatment we regret is what I was going to point to. But also, did you? I had to step away for a second. Did you mention your PSA levels and how they've been trending? Have you had those checked over the years? If I missed that, I'm sorry.
I only
Put your
only
mind.
got. Let's see. I had PSA test. A few maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and again last year, and they were both um, uh, in the fours, and only with the more recent test did well my family doctor uh, uh, suggested taking it in the first place, and then suggested uh, uh, this is your urology territory. So that's what started the ball going. But I haven't been monitoring frequently. It's just kind of a decision that they're better at finding aggressive cancers, so maybe it's time to start testing.
To get to Michael's question, though, it sounds like your PSA is somewhere in the 4s at present.
Yes, the last measure was 4.83,
Okay.
but it hasn't gotten higher than that on retesting, and there have been retests. I guess before the biomarker test and before the biopsy. So.
Okay, Steve, I'd ask that you check in the chat window because there's a lot of good information that you should look up. You and or your wife are free to come back for any of these sessions, but we'd love to hear from you if you do those tests and if they inform what direction you might want to go from that. We had a few more check-ins.
Yes.
Eric, did you want some time?
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Don't need any time. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, you are doing active surveillance, are you not? Eric, are you doing active surveillance? Okay.
Yes, sorry, I am. Just listening tonight.
Okay.
You're sorry you're doing active surveillance, or sorry? Sorry you missed the question. I think where Mark's going with this is, Steve, we'd really encourage you to join the active surveillance group on Wednesday night, because I think they're going to have a lot more relative experience to you. Most of the guys in this group have already opted for treatment, although not all of them. So Eric hasn't, and Joe hasn't, and there are a few people who have not. But I think you'll have a really good conversation with them on Wednesday night. Howard, maybe, as it so happens, Howard isn't there much anymore, but as it so happens, he may be there this week because he wants to talk about a couple of things that he's written up, and I've encouraged him to attend, so he might just be there.
Excellent.
Joe, are you going to need some time tonight?
No, I think I'm fine.
Okay. Larry,
Thanks, Mark.
have you been here before?
Yeah, I have been here before.
And
Larry, what are you doing in this group? It's tomorrow, your group. You're just visiting here? We love to see you in the group. But what are you doing here?
What, this is not the advanced group?
No, sir. I sent you a message. It's a Monday. This is a fourth Monday. So
right. We don't have to pursue this further.
The group is tomorrow at 3 o'clock, the advanced group, with Dr. John in the moderator's seat.
Oh, 3 o'clock? Oh, Hawaii time.
Sorry, 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock for those of you who walk up and down the boardwalk in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm just here to confuse you, Larry.
and well, you've done a very good job. Thank you. But not push on. Whatever they say in England, stuck on, carry on.
Carry on. Carry on. Thank you, Mr. Fish. You're very
push off is different.
You're very welcome to stay. I should mention to Mr. Perlo, to Dr. Perlo, that Mr. Fish is a very long time person. And by the way, Mr. Fish, I did write to your lady, Dr. Audio, today.
Oh,
but
good.
I can't get into why now because it's for something else.
Was
But
it for
anyway,
something good or something bad?
something good, something good, something good.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it because she's my girl. I mean, she's my doc. Okay, I know there's another word, but carry on.
Carry on. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Carry on. Watch
Well,
the Netflix series Adolescent. Bye.
Bye.
Michael, you had your hand up earlier, or said you wanted some time. Did you want to bring up something for the group?
Me?
Michael in Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been I've been ping pong balling back and forth between a couple of different groups, but I really just kind of wanted to get an opinion on, I guess, my plan, and I didn't feel that was appropriate for active surveillance because I am considering possible treatment. Um, just a quick rundown. I kind of got the cart before the horse. I had a biopsy done really early without an actual prostate specific MRI, so it was just kind of random, 17 pokes, and at the time the pathology came back with two course positive. One was 3+3 and one was 3+4. I had Epstein review that as for a second opinion, and he downgraded that everything to a 3+3, but he added 3 more cores to the situation. So it was all pattern 3 as far as I knew. Had a PSMA Pet Scan that came back free and clear. I just had my first. I had to wait a while. My biopsy was in January, and I had to wait a while before I could get an MRI, and I just had that done. And there on this MRI was a fairly large Peyronie's 5 lesion, with about 10 millimeters of that up against the capsule, and I can't. my PSA is still high, but there's also a lot of bleeding seen inside of my prostate, so it hasn't completely healed yet. And I guess my current plan is, and the reason I was here is, I'm kind of leaning heavy on the DECIPHER score from a standpoint of, I feel like it's kind of a catch-22. Like this Peyronie's 5 lesion seems like it could be more aggressive. It is up against the capsule wall for pretty large span distance there, and I don't know if this means anything to anybody, but the ACD values were between 500 and 700 in some spots. So all signs are pointing towards the random biopsy having missed something more significant. I can't do a targeted biopsy until about June because of all the bleeding that's still there. And I guess part of me is, I have my DECIPHER has my results, and I should get them back next week. I called them up and confirmed that. So based on those results,
yeah, I think you have an issue with a doc who does a biopsy without an MRI.
absolutely.
So I think you need to discount the stuff you're told. What I'm not sure, and maybe someone else here will know, I think that the DECIPHER potentially could be off if you didn't sample the areas from that Peyronie's 5. What you don't want to treat solely based on a Peyronie's score. I don't think that that seems to be most appropriate. You might want to look at something like an EpiSwitch PSE or My Prostate Score 2, and if they're low, then maybe you can keep what you got. If they're not, and they show that there's higher risk, then you may want to set up to do a guided biopsy, transperineal biopsy with sedation, and kind of start over again. The nice thing is, from what you've said so far, you have time to decide um, and figure out whether you need another biopsy or not. That would be my thought on this. Any Stuart? I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going in the same direction as you, Mark. Any of the blood or urine-based tests to give you some indication as to what you're looking at while you're waiting, so that you're not sitting around for 3 months worrying about the PIRADS 5 unnecessarily. So you do those tests, they come back low, you might feel better about it.
And what are those tests again? I'm sorry, I missed them.
My prostate score 2. My prostate score 2 is one of them. Another is called EpiSwitch PSE, EPI switch PSE.
That's a blood test.
Yeah, that's a blood test that combines the PSA with other factors that will allow you to decide. I think the My Prostate Score 2 involves some of the tests will involve doing a rectal exam before. I know the ExoDX, you don't need that. It's just a urine test. But I think you'd want to go with the My Prostate Score 2 or EpiSwitch PSE at this point, just to reassure you. But again, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable jumping in and suggesting treatment, because if you're looking at the 5 and you're looking at it being near the edge and saying we're going to be more aggressive because of that, I don't know if you have that information yet. Paul Ann, you had your hand up.
Okay. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so back to as to what you were saying, Dr. Mark. So basically the Decipher test, what they'll do is they'll request from your urology doctor, whoever did the biopsy, the highest score sample out of the batch. So if this was a purely random, and I think you said the highest one was a 3+4, you mentioned.
Yeah, but then downgraded to a 3.3 at
Right,
biopsy.
downgrade 3.3, right. So now I guess the issue is which one would they send? Right. So if you have 3.3 all across the board and you request a Decipher sample, the Decipher company is going to ask you, Ross, to send us the highest score. So if there's no high, it's all straight across the board, then I'm not sure, maybe the percentage be the one. But nevertheless, I think the issue will be because it was a random one without any targeted sample of a lesion because of lack of MRI. Decipher might not be, probably would not test the right sample, if that makes sense.
No, that's actually where that's why I'm here. I completely agree with you. I feel like it's kind of
Right.
like I'm starting over, I guess, a little bit. But
How did
I
you
just
learn? How did you learn to, or where did you hear about Dr. Epstein to do a
no,
second read?
from you guys.
Okay.
I'm in one of these groups. Yep.
Okay. That's
So
great.
I just but I do fear that, like you said, I just, with it being that close to the capsule and running along it, I am half considering, if I figure, even if they sampled a very bad area or a very non-targeted area, if the Decipher score comes back very high, should I consider moving straight into treatment, or would you kind of just sit back, take it easy, and get that targeted biopsy first?
Well, let's go around in here. We have some hands up. Stuart?
Michael, my question is, Do you have, at this point, do you have a good doctor that you feel comfortable with, given that the
Not at
first
all.
one?
No, I do not. I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I have a couple that I've talked to. But then when I heard the news from Epstein, I was like, all right, I'm going to just kind of kick back here. But then I decided, well, I probably should go ahead and get a good MRI of the prostate because I hadn't. And here we go again, right? So that's kind of that's an issue. I need to reach out. I've got a whole list of doctors from Rick and others that I need to talk to and find a team that I can actually.
It just feels like to get these blood tests done without a good doc to help you understand them may sort of, just throw you in a bunch of directions. And you might also have a problem just getting the darn tests done. My brother, when he asked his doctor about getting an EpiSwitch, the guy said, Epi what? And didn't even know where to go and dismissed it. So
I would expect the same. Yeah. Yeah.
Rick, you're up.
So, Michael, I think the first thing we got to do is diffuse some of this anxiety. I think that is one of the big issues that's driving you, rather than your disease demographics right now. From the best that we can tell, you've got 3+3 disease. I mean, nobody has a better eye than Epstein. Nobody. And if he's only seeing, even if he's seeing a little more, if he's only seeing 3+3, you better than anybody other than Eric himself know Eric's situation, because you've met with him, you've talked to him. He's got 11 cores of 3+3, and he's sitting there. Now, if in fact it's 3+3, and I would be putting my money on Epstein, take your time. There was some really interesting research that came out this week, that yesterday actually, that Howard is busy writing about, and he's talked to this one, he's talked to that one, and God, goodness knows what. But we seem to think that a micro ultrasound screen is as good, certainly as good, and does not require an MRI to do a targeted biopsy. So the research that they did, and I forget how many patients there were, somebody, Mark, may remember, but it was a decent sized sample that they took. And the research they did seemed to show that adding an MRI to a Microsoft micro ultrasound sonogram didn't make any difference at all. It didn't add anything. Now, because this was the test they were doing, they were trying to figure out, what's the difference between using no MRI, using an MRI with an ultrasound, using an MRI with a micro ultrasound, using a micro ultrasound on its own. And what they came out with was that you can get away without having to do the MRI if you do a micro ultrasound. So that's certainly important if you're thinking about when to test. The other thing that we like about micro ultrasound, and they didn't even test this because we went back, I asked Howard went back and asked them, but I think we probably set the bells and whistles off, is micro ultrasounds tend to see lesions in occult places, meaning places that are hidden using other types of screening. And they didn't look and see how many of these hidden lesions the micro ultrasound found, but we've known situations where the micro ultrasound has come up with lesions that couldn't be seen using other types of equipment. So my advice to you, this is a long ramble, my advice to you would be find a doc who does a micro ultrasound, wait until you heal, and then go get a transperineal biopsy with a micro ultrasound technology, and then decide where you're going to go from there.
And that would be Dr. Dev Patel in Atlanta.
Oh, there you go.
Urology. He's one person who has experience. There are 4 or 5 different machines doing this in Atlanta, but you do want to, you'll Google and find the press releases, but you want someone who's been doing it for a while and experience, because as we said earlier, the most important thing with that is that you don't want to be in the first dozen cases that someone does with this. It becomes more operator dependent than perhaps some of the other testing we have there.
Thank you, guys.
Bill, you had your hand up. Did you want to address this? Bill Allen?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Michael, I got a great list of doctors in Boston from Rick. Just get the right people on the case and you're going to be fine.
Thank you.
Dr. Pavlovich at Hopkins, if you want to go up to Baltimore, has also, he's well respected in this area and he has experience with the micro ultrasound. So if you enjoy crabs, steamed crabs, then Pavlovich would be the person I would suggest. Michael Williams.
And we know Pavlovich, and Pavlovich was in that was part of the authors of that study.
Yeah.
We'll get that study into the reminder this week or next. Probably for your next session, it'll be in the reminder, and it'll be in the AS reminder too. So keep an eye on that.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Michael.
What I was going to address was, I guess, Michael, I detected that some of your angst or some of your anxiety is that you're having to wait until June to maybe get this targeted biopsy. I don't perceive that from all my reading and what I've looked at as being a lot of time. I mean, you got easily 3 months or more of safety net. You know, you're not in a big rush. That's the biggest thing that scares me about these docs that try to push you to treatment. You know, they seem like they're in a big rush, and all research and these doctors that have given these talks, you just don't have to be in a big rush. You're fine to wait till June. And clearly you want a targeted biopsy done, or that's my opinion.
Oh, no, you're right. And that's exactly why I was here. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a ridiculously dumb thing to do because I'm not getting a lot of help from the doctors around me. And you guys have helped me so much. So that's why I was here.
And I think many of us, I certainly have been in that boat where we felt like the first doctor that we saw just didn't want to take up any time with us, wanted to push straight forward, didn't want to answer a lot of questions. But you will find, if you look, you'll find somebody out there that will answer a lot of questions and that will take up a lot more time. You know, I most informative person I found was somebody I did a phone consult with who was a doctor who did focal procedures out of Mexico. But he was trained in America and used to be married to somebody I knew personally. And he took up an immense amount of time with me and refused to charge me a dime. I offered to pay him. Wouldn't take anything. Gave me a written report after he looked at everything. And suggested active surveillance.
So I think one thing that it brings up is that most of us can't be immediately certain with the information we're getting. So I always ask myself, what can I do to help guys who have a problem with the PSA elevations not end up with random biopsies. In this day and age, I think that's just so inappropriate and it creates more angst. So I think we should each ask ourselves, what can we do away from here to help our friends and family members avoid the unnecessary stress? Eric, you're up.
Hey, I had a question about Dr. Miller in Atlanta. I heard good things about him.
Yes, and I would second that. He's great too. He has experience with micro ultrasound, and his name slipped my mind this evening, but I think he would be great to start with as well.
Awesome, because I saw him for a second opinion initially when I was first diagnosed. He was very friendly and very personable, and he said, yeah, you could be on active surveillance, you can do surgery, because he's, I think, a well-known surgeon.
Yes, he is.
So he might push surgery, but he was cool with active surveillance in my case.
Okay, Rick just posted a link to the article on JAMA Network about the micro ultrasound, and it's not anything fancy. It's basically just an ultrasound probe that operates at a higher frequency. I think the normal probes are around 4.5 megahertz, and these are 29 megahertz probes. So the distance from the tip of the probe is less than, you're not going to get the whole pelvis. You're not going to see pelvic lymph nodes unless you get the probe right up against the lymph node. But you can get the probe right up against the prostate and get a much clearer vision than you can with the 4.5 millimeter device. Eric, did you?
Dr. Klotz talked about it at the PCRI conference.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I think he's one of the, I'll say, initial investors or something with it, if I remember correctly.
Well, again, I think the problem is if you're going to someone like Scott Miller, who's been doing this, or Pavlovich, or Dr. Klotz, you know that you're in good hands. On the other hand, if it's someone who just bought the machine and took a Saturday afternoon course on micro, it might be a very different situation. I just wanted to second again on the idea of it's normal to feel like you've got cancer and you just want to get on with it and get it done and put it behind you. But no matter what we do and choose, our lives are different, whether it means more closely monitoring, whether it means just having different energy levels. I mean, this is still a cancer, but it doesn't need to devastate us. It doesn't need to change our life. And there's, unless you have multiple metastases detected elsewhere throughout the body, you don't need to be overly time concerned. I know I spent over 10 months till I got the appropriate treatment, and I had disease outside the gland, and I've been 4.5 years now without detectable PSA. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that we don't want to forget about, but we also don't want to be pushed into it and want to get the right answer and do the right things. Anybody else want to comment for Michael?
The last thing I'll say, just to make sure I understand, my prostate score 2, EpiSwitch, that's PSE or V? Victor? Edward.
EPI.
EPI.
Echo Paul India Switch .PSE.
All right. And as far as the micro ultrasound, that's something I would wait on once I've healed.
I would talk to someone like Scott Miller. He would be my first choice in Atlanta.
Okay.
And see what he says about when you ought to do this.
Is he
Yeah.
good on active surveillance, Mark?
I really don't know on that, but Eric, you said he was open to that and you didn't feel pushed.
Correct. He was very open to that. Wasn't pushing either treatment or non-treatment. So thank
And
you for all that info.
and Michael, you know, I think somebody said something to you before. I think it was Stuart or it was maybe it was Bill. I can't remember who said it, but they said, get yourself set with a doc before you order more tests. And yes, we've got all these tests and it's easy to get more tests, but then if you don't have a good navigator to a good provider to help you interpret the tests, it's just going to make things worse. And as we know, some of these docs, you'll go to them and they don't even know what the bloody tests are. So you don't want to order a test from somebody who's going to school on you getting the test for the first time. So my feeling would be put all of your time and effort right now whilst you're healing into getting a doc that you like and you have a good rapport with and who can put you at ease. And then you can do micro ultrasound, you can get an EpiSwitch, you can get a this, you can get a that, and you'll come to the right decision. But again, we're sort of putting a few things before in front of the horse, and not just the cart. Right, Dr. Mark? How about Dr. John? Dr. John, you're smiling. Go on, Dr. John. This is
Not
more
just
your
the
field.
No, that's brilliant. No, I think that's I don't know, that I feel dumb for not having considered that. I could be using this time to find the right doctor. And so
Well, we
I'll
all
do it.
know what that's like to find out something and say, oh, if I only knew then what I know now.
Honestly, you guys know more than my doctors. That's why I come in here so much. So finding a good doctor is going to be, yeah, that's where I'll
Well,
start.
we're only dealing with cancer, and they're dealing with hundreds of different conditions. So we got to give them a break. That's easier for us to stay on top of it than it is for them. I wanted to maybe clarify one of the things that Rick said or add to it, and that is all these tests are great, but they're not the same. It's not like a switch where it's either a one or a zero. When you do these tests, it's almost guaranteed that you will have conflicting results that can add to the stress. So it wouldn't hurt to look at it, find out which tests might be covered, and decide on one. But really, you don't need to go and do each and every test that's out there. You'll just drive yourself crazy and never be at the point of making a decision. Um, it just We're not at the point where we can take an AI and come up with 100 different uh, biomarkers, put it together, and know, yes, this is the absolute. The best we can do is get an educated guess.
Good point.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry for taking up so much time.
No problem at all. Bill Allen, you're up now.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Quick name, rank, and serial number. Piece, 67 years old. Have been in active surveillance for 4 years. 4 biopsies. 3 + 3 = 6. PSA of 9.25 or so. High risk DECIPHER 0.91. Got connected with a physician at urologist, actually at Dana-Farber in Boston. Thank you very much, Rick. His name is Dr. Bible. I see him on Wednesday, along with a Dr. D'Amico, who is a radiation oncologist. I saw the oncologist there, a woman by the name of Dr. Elizabeth Hinsky. She was fantastic as well, spent 55 minutes with me. and my wife. Did a second opinion on the pathology. Came back different than what the original read on it was. It came back as a little bit of 3 + 4 = 7 with perineal invasion. So that was a bit of a surprise. I think I've got 2 appointments on Wednesday with the radiation oncologist and the urologist. My sort of focus there is, we've sort of, after 4 years of 3 + 3 = 6, we've got some things that are changing and moving around. Not in a good way necessarily, and I want to make sure that I get out in front of whatever is going on, because I've had basically two sort of curveballs, and I don't like curveballs. I'm a fastball hitter, so any advice would be welcomed.
So, you're in good hands with Dana-Farber. They have great people there. When you talk to the radiation oncologist, ask about their MRI LINAC. I think that's state of the art. The nice thing about staying on top of this and catching it at a 3 + 4 stage rather than advance to the 4 + 3 is that it wouldn't be standard to recommend the Lupron or ADT with the radiation. Now, the PNI and high DECIPHER may mean more than the Gleason score, and the only way to tease that out would be to consider something like ArteraAI, where they'll actually quantitate or calculate an extent that they believe the addition of ADT might benefit you. So if it says it's going to be 3 to 5% reduction in biochemical recurrence, that's one thing. If they say it's a 50% reduction, I think most of us would opt for 6 months of ADT. So I'd ask the doc about the ArteraAI for ADT and about the MRI LINAC. Any other comments from anybody?
I just wanted to check, did you say it was Kivel that you were going to see in the end? Because I know there were 2 names I gave you. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Cable. He was the guy who was first available.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
it's not me you want to thank. It's Dr. Ellie Van Allen, who's on our advisory board, who I reached out to and said, who's good for AS in a strange situation? And he said, Dr. K's the man. So there you go. So when you see him, you can say, got your name through Ellie Van Allen.
Where do you live, Bill? Boston?
Outside Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Somebody said Dana-Farber, threw me off.
Yeah, no, Dana-Farber's 2.5 hours away from us.
Oh, okay.
I thought you said Dana-Farber. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
he did say Dana-Farber. He did say Dana-Farber. Yeah. That's where he's going.
No, just to be clear, Portland, Maine is the original Portland.
So I've got to tell you a story about this, because my wife and I were deciding on vacations, and let's go to Portland this year. So we went through the whole thing, and I booked the trip because I like the wine country, and I booked a trip for Oregon, and she had everything planned out to go to Maine.
She had a hotel for Maine,
and had plenty of lobster and had a great time. So it was beautiful up there.
It's a great place to live. We're very fortunate. So anyhow, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Rick, and thank you all for bearing with me.
And I also want to say to you, Dr. D'Amico is just not any old radiation oncologist. He's he's right up there with Mac Roach and a couple of others as being the best in the country.
Yep, he's one of the OGs, no doubt. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we have on the list. So,
Wow.
Greg Burns, I didn't have a chance to ask you, and Marty, I didn't have a chance to ask you whether either of you two needed some time tonight.
Yeah, I'll speak if they got a few minutes.
Okay, Marty, are you going to one up?
That was Marty. That was Marty. How about Mr. Burns? You're muted. Can't hear you. You're on the other side of the world. You forgot. Go. Unmute. There you go.
对不起，我的中文很烂。Okay. Yeah, I just if I could have a few minutes of your time after Marty, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so Marty, you're up.
And Bill has his hand up. He just put his hand up before we start. So what?
Okay.
Yeah, just one other thing, real quick. I got the color results back this afternoon, and it said that there is, no genes that would typically cause cancer. So
I want to add to that. You and me went through at the same time. I finally, after all these years, said I better get my color test, and I just got mine. I just opened it at the beginning of this meeting, and I didn't have anything either. So we're together on that one.
I just got mine today too, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay. They must have sent out a whole bunch. And by the way, for Steve R., we put the PROMISE link in the chat window earlier on. That is a free germline test. It's not the best one that's out there, but it's okay. And it won't cost you anything. And they send you a little kit in the mail, and you spit into it. You have to have plenty of spit to fill up half the tube. And then, think about lemons but you can't you can't have any food for half an hour before. And then you send it off, and then they send you the results. So it's really easy to do.
Rick, I thought they were
tell them
coming
to
up
send it to your doc. Tell them to send it to you.
I thought they were coming up with the end of the study soon.
They are.
Do we know how long it's going to be possible?
I don't think much longer. I think they only need another 500 people out of 5,000, and I don't know what number they're at. But make hay whilst the sun shines.
Okay, so Marty, you're up.
Hi, I'm 76 years old and been following my prostate through AnCan for 5 years with active surveillance. I've had 4 MRIs and 4 biopsies. All the MRIs are PIRADS 5. The biopsies have showed just 3+3. The first time, second time it showed a little bit of 3+4. Third time just 3+3. Fourth time it showed 3+3 and 3+4, a little bit of 3+4. And I sent it to Dr. Zhao, and he said, no, it's just 3+3. Excuse me. But the concerning thing is that the MRI shows that the left anterior midline transitional zone, the lesion is increased in size, and it has extra prostatic extension. So I'm my regular urologist said, well, check with a couple other opinions and see what you want to do. So I'm going to see a radiologist, oncologist a week from tomorrow, see what they think. In the meantime, I'm just reaching out to see how concerning it seems to be that the thing is trying to push outside the capsule.
Well, my comment there would be, what you're seeing a regular urologist, or is this a prostate cancer specialist?
Well, I see a regular urologist, but I saw the head urologist last week, and he suggested maybe I just wait and have another MRI and biopsy. But in the meantime, I had already scheduled a meeting with the radiation oncologist to see what they thought. Dr. Antonio in Washington looked at the MRI, and he agreed that it looked like it was trying to push outside the capsule. So
Have they considered a PSMA PET?
I haven't heard that from anyone. No.
So that would certainly be something that I'd want to know, because I mean, I just don't think that the MRI is as accurate either way in predicting disease that's close and then actually having disease outside the gland. One of the things that I'm facing with, and I know we've seen it, and some of the recommendations have been after age 70 to stop screening. Obviously, I think if we have a diagnosis, that's not a point that we'd want to accept. But at some point, we have to consider when is enough enough, and it's going to have to do partly with our general health. If we're in good health, then we may want to look at it. And if you're putting yourself through the testing, you ought to ask, are you going to do the treatment? And you want to look at it and say, well, I'm going to be around for another 10, 15 years in all likelihood. So I will get treatment. On the other hand, if you've got heart disease, diabetes, and COPD or other significant health problems, then chasing after prostate cancer may not be the route you want to go. But I think the PET scan would be a good thing. And then once you move beyond that, find a doc who is focusing on prostate or GU cancers and not just a generalist. Where are you located?
Auburn, New York, close to Syracuse, New York, where I'm. The doctor in Auburn is affiliated with Upstate and Syracuse. It's a big regional hospital.
Right. Rick, do you know any people in upstate New York to suggest?
Not urology. You know, I'm not that good on urologists and what have you. So I really can't help you. I'm sorry, Marty. I just I'm much better on GU medical oncologists, which thank God you don't need, and radiation oncologists. No, I'm not a big fan of Roswell Park. I will say that for their prostate cancer care. So I really don't know what to say. I think Mark's suggestion is kind of interesting to get a PSMA. Normally, I would say absolutely not if you're a 3+3, but at the same time, if we know that there are issues with it pushing against, we could certainly have a much better feel if it was outside the prostate. But then there's a whole other issue about how serious is a 3+3 when it gets outside the prostate? Because, we don't think 3+3 spreads, but here we got a 3+3. So when was was that lesion that's pushing against it, was that the 3+3 or was that the 3+4?
Well, the local +4 in there, but doctors, all he saw was 3+3.
So Dr. Zhao thinks it's 3+3, which I would put my money on again. And did you talk to Dr. Zhao yourself?
Did prior to him coming 3+3, because for some reason the pathologist at Auburn didn't send all the complete slides, so he wasn't able to give a full opinion, so then I had to have them look, and they sent it, and then he 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 reviewed it again and then sent me a email saying it was 3+3.
So, I would call him up right now because I think he would have a good answer for you as to if it was extraprostatic, what is your risks if it is a 3+3? I mean, that's the sort of person I would want to ask about how serious is 3+3 if it's pushing up against the capsule. And he's fairly sure it's 3+3. So I would get him on the blower and say, I now know it's 3+3, but now I got all this pressure on me about it being possibly extraprostatic. Do I need to worry about extraprostatic lesion that's 3+3?
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put a call into him. He's answered me a couple of times when he could, and, or else texted me, so or send me an email. So I'll try that again tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if you need, it sounds to me like you may have to travel to go to a decent doc, a strong urological oncologist, and then it's a question of where you're willing to travel to, and maybe we can find people for you in Cleveland for sure. That might be the closest to you. It's a strange part of the country. Buffalo, I know, is the closest, but I wouldn't. Like I say, we don't have somebody, but we have people in Cleveland that we can send you to, and that's relatively close, right?
Yeah, it's 4 hours.
And we can send you down to Boston as well, for sure.
Right.
Which is probably about the same, isn't it?
Boston's a little bit farther, maybe 6.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll give him a call, see what he thinks, and go from there.
Bill, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record. But, if you have to go to the moon to get the right doc, go to the moon. It just makes such a big difference. That's all I have to say.
I think I certainly second that. I wish I had made the right decision and gone to an NCCN center right off rather than simply relying on my own reading of what I could find. AnCan was after I made my mistakes, unfortunately. And let's see, someone else, Michael in Tennessee.
If somebody else has something for Marty, I can be quiet. Just on that note, I was curious, is it better, like how far do you want to go, and how is it better to have somebody relatively local, especially at my age where I feel like I'm gonna be dealing with this for a while, or is it better to go find, whether it's, I'm in Georgia, I don't care to go to UCLA if I have to, right? So it's just a matter of where you draw the line, right? So
Michael, that's what I did. I was in Atlanta, did some checking at Emory, at Piedmont Hospital. Northside didn't have the MRI Linac, but when I did the studying, I decided I wanted to be at UCLA. I think UCLA and MSK are probably about the best comprehensive programs where it's solid across the board. If you come out to LA, we plan a lunch, and from Atlanta, you can get a 6:30 flight from Atlanta, make an 11 o'clock doctor's visit, and get back on a flight in the afternoon and be back in Atlanta the same day. So it was
Okay.
pretty convenient.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry to distract, but
No,
thank you,
no
Bill.
problem. Jim, you wanted to make a comment.
I just wanted to say I made the decision to travel from Reno to San Francisco for my surgery, which was a 4-hour drive, 180 miles, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. And you can do some stuff virtually, so you don't always have to be going back and forth. But don't let distance be within reason a good reason not to go get treatment at what they call center of excellence, a place where you're going to get the best treatment.
Okay, thank you. Greg, you're up now.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just real quick, Jim, just curious, if you're in Reno, were you able to do video chats across state lines? I thought that was kind of a challenge.
It's very much a challenge. Fortunately, my wife has a house in the Bay Area, and I've got one of her daughters lives in the Bay Area, so we were able to use that address. I hope I'm not turning myself in here to
Right.
not going to be able to do it. But yeah, so that's how I was able to get around that. And I've had other friends that have been treated at UCSF for different things, and they'll drive over the state line, which is about 7 miles away, and just go to a coffee shop or wherever and do their video consultation that way. So yeah, you can get around it even though I'm breaking the rules.
Right. Cool.
Medicare is getting kind of iffy on that, and I saw something at one point. I haven't seen anything else, but at the end of March they were supposed to do away with all Medicare reimbursement for telemedicine. I don't know if that's still in place.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the same thing because I actually have a video appointment on April 1st, and they said, well, we'll go ahead with it and then deal with it if we have to get you've been approved and we're all ready to go. But I haven't seen any updates on that either. It's my understanding is now
it's not all video point. It's not all telemedicine. If you're rural, it's still permitted. So there are exceptions.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There are some exceptions, but I think in general they're trying to discourage it.
Wow, that's news. Wow. Okay. The reason I'm here today, as to Rick's encouragement, was I've been on active surveillance for about 2 years, and I have a very small amount of 3+4. The rest is 3+3. I had a lesion that grew from 1.2 to 1.4 cm over an 8-month period. So my doctor said it's time for another biopsy, which I'll get in June, just to, as he said, get in front of this. But that's just some background. But a buddy of mine who's into alternative medicine and everything, he's encouraged me to try thiabendazole, Fenbendazole, to cure cancer. Has anybody ever heard anything about thiabendazole?
Fenbendazole.
Yeah.
I've already put my 2 cents in, but I figured that Dr. Mark might want to say something. Dr. John may want to say something. So go ahead.
Well, I guess it cures cancer. It cures multiple sclerosis, cures Alzheimer's. It gets the brain worms that you have that may do this. And if you died as a result of COVID, for a period of 2 weeks afterwards, it will rise from the grave and you will be able to live again. The nice thing is that it does kill cancer cells. It's wonderful. If you take a line of cell and you line up 100 identical twins and they're just the right one that is sensitive, these cells will kill, or these medicines will kill those 100 identical cells. The problem is that cancer doesn't behave that way. If you look in a classroom of people or an auditorium at a school, there's real diversity. And inside our tumors, there's real diversity as well. And while you may knock off some of the cells, you may actually be enhancing the growth of some of the others that are left behind. So what we do is we look at this in a cell line and sometimes in animal models and test to see, is there any killing activity from this medication? And they say, yep, it does. Well, when you do that, then you have to test for safety in humans, and then you do clinical trials to see if it actually has a benefit. And when those clinical trials are done, there's only been one, and I think, if I recollect, it was out of Harvard in humans. It showed no benefit. So you'll find hundreds of studies that will talk about killing cells in mice. Again, they're all identical twins. All the cells are exactly the same, but you won't find any evidence that it's going to do something to treat the cancer. If you want to treat the cancer, you can treat it. Now, if you are active surveillance, there was studies in the past 6 months that showed that diet, nutrition, and exercise and lifestyle changes may delay having to get off and get treatment. So there is some benefit on that, but the supplements in the thiabendazole, mebendazole, ivermectin, that's hogwash. That's hogwash, and just not something that you ought to waste your time doing. That's my unbiased, unvarnished opinion. John.
I concur.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Come on, Dr. John, you can say more than I concur. You've got some thoughts on this. And then I want to come back and say something to Greg, but go on, unload a little for Greg. I don't want him to make his decision just based on what I say and what Dr. Mark says.
No, there's good treatments available. I just stick with the presently recommended and up-to-date indicated treatments, and add diet and exercise.
In terms of diet, are we vegan? Are we plant-based? Are we no red meat? I mean, what's the general rule of thumb on that? I haven't eaten red meat for 40 years or more, so it's just fish and chicken. But I need my protein, so What are
more an issue with carbs would be there. Healthy fresh fruits and vegetables, eat your meats and all that. I think that's okay. High dairy, I think, is looked down upon. But insulin resistance and diabetes tend to stimulate a lot of different cancer growth and metabolism. So if we can get diabetes under control, if we have diabetes, we're going to do a better job addressing the cancer as well.
I would just slightly disagree with some of that. I think whole foods, reducing processed foods, sort of anti-inflammatory diet. I wouldn't be quite so free with the meats, especially processed meats, as maybe Mark feels comfortable with.
No, I agree.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not eating processed. I don't eat much processed stuff at all. So it's
A mostly plant-based diet is just sort of keep on trending gently in that direction. The stuff about dairy is still kind of controversial. I can't tell whether whole milk is associated with prostate cancer and prostate cancer recurrence because of the fat or because it's an animal source. I'm really a little perplexed about that, but I think probably to be on the safe side, avoiding saturated fats and whole fat dairy products would be better. And exercise, Rick will tell you 150 minutes a week. I'll tell you maybe 225 a week. Just keep moving.
So I do want to add something, and it's really a promo for next week. It should have gotten into the reminder, but it didn't for various reasons, and you won't have another meeting before then. But next Wednesday, April 2nd, we are starting the active surveillance meeting half an hour early, and we're going to welcome a guest, a urological urologist from UC San Diego called Michael Liss, Liss. And I've heard him talk. He's very interesting. And he's very, his area of particular interest are gut microbiomes. And the reason he's coming on to the active surveillance is because he's trying to recruit some people for a study right now. So he's involved in a commercial company. He's trying to recruit some people for a study, but he's only taking 3+3. It isn't that what he talks about is only applicable to 3+3, but he's only going to be talking. He's looking for 3+3 people. And we'll put it in the active surveillance, and we're going to record it. So we'll put it in the low risk, intermediate risk following week. Now, one of the things that he suggests, and I got to get my list here, is that for a healthy diet, you're supposed to eat. Are you ready for this? Because everybody's going to roll their eyes when I tell you this. Except maybe Mr. Burns, who's in the Far East there where he can do it more easily. 30 vegetables a week. 30 different vegetables a week is what he says. Now, and he suggests you put a note on I'm stealing his thunder here. You put a note on the refrigerator door and you write down the veggies you've been eating. And the most I've reached in a week so far is 22, which I thought was pretty good. Okay,
that is pretty good. We tried that too after listening to his talk, and we couldn't. I don't think we made even 22.
So yeah, but it was really interesting, and basically what he's found in some studies to date, and is that if you keep this type of diet and increase the number of microbiomes in your gut, that it is prophylactic in terms of cancer. And he's already done one study that shows better results from people who have this gut diversity. So wait a minute, we've got Eric and we've got Michael. You guys would be eligible, and you get $25, an analysis of your diet, and God knows what else. So I definitely make a note. Make sure you come in early. Starts half an hour early, so that means it'll start at 7:30 Eastern. And come on in and listen to Dr. Liss. It's worthwhile. Didn't you, John? Didn't you think when we heard him, it was sort of worthwhile?
Yes, I do, and I think it's kind of generalizable too, although there's no proof yet.
Rick, do you know if his study is CDMRP funded?
I don't know if it's CDMRP. I don't think it's CDMRP funded. You can hold on a minute, and I can put a link to the study. I can definitely put a link to the study in the chat window, so you guys can all read about the study.
When we were reviewing papers for that, one of the interesting things about the gut microbiome that they were suggesting was that for those people who have had a prostatectomy and years down the road ended up with bone metastasis, it's not that you have a new cancer that formed, but that you seeded stem cells early on. And the natural situation is to put these cells into suspended animation, and they're kept at rest, is the normal status. But then something changes in the gut microbiome, and the metabolites of these bacteria and the food we eat take this hold off these stem cells, and they start growing again. So they were looking specifically at the role of the microbiome and bone mets in prostate cancer. And I think that's going to be interesting to see those results as well.
So I just put two links in this in the chat window. One is for the company OncoBiomix, and the other is for the study enrollment. So you can check about the funding of the study and everything else from that second one, Dr. Mark. But
Okay.
but I think that the message, Greg, is that we know some things can make a real difference, such as your diet, your exercise, which of course you do plenty of, and stress reduction. There are some things we're not so sure of, like thiabendazole and ivermectin. And we'd rather tell you to exercise more and eat right than spend your money on thiabendazole.
I was more concerned about the issue, snake oil repercussions of eating it more than the cost or anything. I just thought, yeah, you take this for that, and then you end up growing a third ear or otherwise. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay.
I don't know. So maybe some of those dogs that take thiabendazole might have. Has Andrew ever had? Talking of Andrew, do a quick promo before people leave.
Yeah, I briefly mentioned before. This Wednesday, Andrew is going to share his experience with prostate cancer. Andrew is only 9 years old, but if you multiply that by 7, that makes him easy enough. He was delaying getting his PSAs, and he threatened anybody who attempted to do a DRE. Andrew is a 9-year-old golden doodle, and he will be interviewed as part of Solo Arts Heal this Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I've been asked to translate dog and help with the closed captions. Rick, are you doing the interview, or is Alexa doing it?
I think I got aced out. From what I understand, Alexa has absolutely insisted that she wants to renew her acquaintance with Andrew. So that's sort of how it goes, man. What can you do? It's a bit of a shame. I mean, I was certainly wanting to do it. Hold on a minute. Oh, Eric, come to my rescue, because I'm doing 2 or 3 things. Can you stick in the link for Solo Arts Heal, please? I want to give a huge shout out to Eric and to Jose, because Eric and Jose are taking over the production of Solo Arts Heal, and for which we're super, super grateful. But I think this is a show not to miss. To our respected Bordy, who's up in the corner of my screen, who runs a dog rescue. This is a not to miss, Stuart. This is a not to miss. How often do you see a dog interviewed, eh?
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be really special. Yeah, maybe you can even get Andrew to get Mark to send you a poster for your dog rescue of Andrew. He's quite a celebrity in that dog world,
Well, the airport gave me a pillow with his photo emblazoned on this pillow, and they're building a new airport here in Burbank to replace the old one, and it's going to be gorgeous and a lot more comfortable than the tight one we have now. But in the modern age, they want to make sure that we are well trained. So the training for volunteers and staff is with virtual reality. And we're going to be walking around through this virtual terminal wearing the mask. And they said that if I asked kindly enough, they might even provide one for Andrew to walk through the airport so he gets to experience what the new terminal will be like. Yeah.
So there was a picture in your reminder. I happen to have another picture which I snuck into the advanced reminder, which is even cuter. But this dog is very photogenic. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Milson, that this is a photogenic dog? Are you there, Eric? Oh, he's turned on. He's turned off. You're muted. Unmute. Are you there?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm trying to type and post things. And
Yeah.
yes, he's very personable and super friendly. And Mark's not bad too.
Thank you. And well, and I think I got you another hit also. We've got Chris Mann, I think, has been talking with Jose to talk about doing a session on Alzheimer's and share some of his musical videos and music. And he and my daughter wrote a song and did a video that was used by the Alzheimer's Association. So he's been invited around the country to do TED Talks for Alzheimer's. So that'll be something hopefully we'll get.
Fantastic. In full disclosure, this is Mark's son-in-law. Or Andrew's. What would you say? No. He would be Andrew's
father-in-law,
brother-in-law,
uncle-in-law,
brother-in-law. Andrew's brother-in-law. Yes, yeah. There you go. Okay, guys, we gotta let you go. It's getting silly. We're getting silly here.
Have a good night. See y'all. What is the date again? Is it? Are we the first?
Yes. Thank you so much for reminding me. Thank you, Mark. Yes, we've got to change your dates for next month. You're still going to be in the second and the fourth week, but your Mondays are not going to be the second and fourth Mondays. So you will be on the 7th and the 21st. So it won't make really much difference to you. Sorry we got to do this, but otherwise we would have 2 high-risk recurrent advanced meetings on successive nights, which we don't want to do. Sometimes the calendar, we call here at AnCan a witching month, and we get a weird month, and it means that our Monday and Tuesday meetings follow each other. So your meeting will be on the 7th and the 24th, and 7th and the 21st. And we'll see you then. So it'll be the 7th, Mark.
Okay. Sounds great.
Thank you for reminding me.
Good evening, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.